Yeah. All right, folks, we are live. Welcome in to the Ultimate Schmoedown Show. This is preview edition, folks. We got a pay-per-view match tonight. It is fight night in the Schmoedown world. I'm going to be your host for this evening, moderating this whole crazy thing that we got going on for the next hour, leading you up to the greatest Schmoedown Throwdown lineup I've seen of the last couple years. I'm your host, Colin Morris. Joining me are the other Ultimate Schmoedown Show boys, John and Bogz. John, I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. How you doing, dude?
Oh, it's been so long since I've seen my boys. I'm doing well, Colin. Kicking back. This is not as early as we do some of our other shows, so I've got a lovely glass of $2 wine. That's pretty okay. Very excited to talk about some pretty good matches that we got coming up. I don't know if I would say this is the best ever Schmoedown Throwdown lineup, just because I think it was a Schmoedown Throwdown where we got Mike versus Rachel Cushing for the belt one time. That was a pretty good one, especially because I think we had the Scream Queens going up against, I think it would have been an Odd Couple, right? I think that was that card. But certainly hard to argue that, I won't argue that we definitely have a very good card for tonight with Rocha versus Erwin and Deep 13 versus Final Exam.
And Bogz, we've had a great past, 2 months. We've been blessed with Star Wars tournament, Inner Geekdom tournament. Everybody's saying, nerds, it's time to go. It's time to sit down. It's time to let the adults play. It's time for teams. It's time for singles. What are you more ready for?
Probably singles. Not gonna lie, probably singles. I mean, both really. But it's time for the big boys to come into play now. Not the side things, which are obviously cool anyway. But this is the creme de la creme of the Schmoedown. These are the kind of the elite of the game. This is the start of a huge month. Obviously, we're going to be working a lot, us guys. But yeah, it's the kickoff to one of the busiest months the Schmoedown's ever seen.
And I might as well rename today August 0th, because August, just starting today, if today was the first day of August, this might be the most Schmoedown ever packed into 1 month. If we want to talk about stakes, if we want to talk about teams, if you want to talk about everything going into this, there are stakes on top of stakes. And we got a pay-per-view matchup for you tonight that is going to rock. It's so good. We got Final Exam versus Deep 13. Honestly, if there's a match to come back to for teams without, Founding Fathers or even the Patriots, this is a matchup that I am ecstatic to see. Paul Oyama getting his name back out there. John, what is it about this one that's got you excited?
For me, it's the faction of swag. Swag, while not necessarily stacked with the biggest names of players, at least going into the season, for me, I was really excited to see this faction personality-wise. I think it's got some of the just most fun people in the Schmoedown, perhaps the most of which being Winston Marshall, their manager. So it's always just fun to see these kinds of folks coming out. And then especially looking at the chemistry that Lon and Paul had coming out of their first match, especially with Lon's new persona, the Delinquent. I'm very excited to see that team back in action, especially because they are going to have a pretty tough match against them, with Deep 13 being their opponents for this. I think it's first of 5 matches, maybe 4, but 4 or 5 matches leading up to a potential title shot for the team's belt.
And that run is going to be tough. Every time you look at that schedule that the commissioner posted, it is, it gets heavier and heavier every single time. You're like, oh, this team faces the winner of this matchup. Then they face the winner of and it just keeps pounding and pounding and pounding. Bogz, but it doesn't stop there. It does not stop there tonight. Tonight has one of the biggest contender matches in the history of the Schmoedown. If you want to level up who's in it, this might be the most talent and hardware, former hardware ever assembled in one contender match. So what else is there to look forward to here?
Yeah, just on the team situation, that's a great point. This is like the start of a huge kind of each level, each time you win, the kind of level of opposition grows and grows and grows. So super interesting. I'm particularly, in terms of the undercard anyway, particularly interested in how kind of Whitney and
Alonso,
yeah, how they're going to be, because we've seen them in the past in their own individual teams. I wouldn't say fold under pressure is a bit harsh, but perhaps not hit their full potential. So maybe together against a fellow newer team, maybe they might kind of overcome them barriers. But yeah, it's really, really interesting match. And then onto the big one, of course, one of the greatest players of all time against one of the other greatest players of all time. But yeah, anytime, obviously, you know, we're an Outlaw Nation show, but anytime Rocha's there, I mean, he's the headliner. He sells out the crowds. I mean, being from the UK, tuning into the Schmoedown initially and watching just Rocha unfold, you know, with the promos, with the smack talk, because that's what, you know, when it comes to like the greatest of all time kind of debate, you know, statistically, it's hard not to say Morrow, obviously a 4-time singles champ and a teams champ. But for me, it's more than that. For me, it's getting the kind of Rocha literally grabs your attention and brings you in. He's on top of that. He's like, I believe he's actually helped since they've teamed up with the Founding Fathers, them two together. He's actually helped Morrow with bringing out the personality more, bringing out, you know, the kind of the interviews and the promos and everything. So I think if you include all of that, for me, Rocha is the greatest of all time. For me, it's just my opinion, but so I always put him on that pedestal. And going into that match with Erwin, obviously had that amazing run in 2018, and you know, in teams as well. You know, he was great with Janine as well. Obviously, he's been a bit of a lull in terms of title matches, anything like that. He hasn't been in the fold. He hasn't been in any kind of digital matches, anything like that. I've seen he's been doing a lot of kind of interviews this week, backstage and other shows and stuff. So he's talking the talk. Let's see if he can walk the walk, because obviously Rocha's coming. We know Rocha's studying hard. So yeah, I'm just super excited, super interested, man. Either way it goes down, but yeah, let's see what they got.
And I love what you're saying there about Rocha, because when you look at it from that perspective of a more broader sense, we're not just talking about wins and losses. We're not just talking about how many 5-pointers and how many KOs you're talking here. This is not, this is just a take, whatever. Dan Murrell's character for a long time in the Schmoedown was Dan Murrell.
Yeah, it was himself, yeah.
Because just the idea of Dan Murrell scared the hell out of every competitor. Hence the da-dum, da-dum. That was it. That was the feeling. He was the great white coming through, and that's all you needed to be scared of was Dan, the new Murrell order coming in, the shirt on. And that's all, that's as scary as he ever was. That's all he needed to do to put fear into people. But Rocha takes it and makes a career out of creating entertainment. He creates this this spark of love for the game that is so pure, but it's gripping stuff. It gets you every time. Like you said, you're watching him box, and he's the thing that grabs you. Those first couple seasons, once we start getting into the whole Collider era of the Schmoedown, he's right there. He is what brought people in. The idea of the outlaw. John, who tonight are you looking for to maybe provide a new spark in the Schmoedown? Somebody who hasn't done that yet.
Interesting question, Colin. I'm not sure. I think potentially it's hard to say, especially just with the undercard being a teams match. Obviously, there's not necessarily that same room to kind of shine as a singular being, which is also a good thing in a way, though, obviously. Like, it's better to not be trying to one-up your partner. I think that we could see a spark or rise specifically from Final Exam. Again, just colorful personalities that are also coming in with a lot of experience in the Schmoedown in a variety of ways. Obviously, Oyama had a huge early run where he came in and pretty immediately became the singles champion before ultimately having an unfortunate big loss to Ben Bateman, and then coming back this year with an all-new personality. And then on the other hand, you have Lon Harris, someone who had been doing pretty steadily well throughout his time in the Schmoedown. Also had some highs and lows, particularly in the Anarchy Teams tournament alongside his brother Jonathan Harris, after, of course, being alongside JTE. And then also coming into the season with a whole new personality, albeit one that was a little less happy and full of life, perhaps, than Paul's new personality. And I think that's part of what makes me the most excited about this team final exam. Two personalities that we still haven't seen a lot of this season, but are certainly bigger than what we've seen from them in the past, certainly new, and frontmanned by Winston Marshall, one of the best and funniest personalities currently going at it right now in the Schmoedown. Just like Guyan was saying here, good vibes. You get it, Guyan. You get it.
That's my girlfriend, and I'll just find her name is Guyane, and that is
Guyane.
there you go. You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's all it is. You say it once, you nailed it. Boom. And she is probably a bigger Schmoedown fan than most people that watch this show, and could probably hold her own on the Disney side of things, the classic stuff. It's kind of creepy, the knowledge that's there.
I get that.
If we're looking at teams that are coming, it's final exam, because we're looking at what it takes right now, and it's a combination of knowledge, it is character, and it is a manager. And Winston, like you said, is that manager that right now is riding high. He is a front runner for manager of the year, managing the great Andres Ace Cabrera. I mean, come on, leading him to that Star Wars tournament title. You got to imagine that the guy is feeling it, and now has two beautiful minds. You know, those dudes are smart. Those dudes are so smart. And now they're going to play the game. And I was kind of hoping that you would have mentioned Paul, because Paul reminds me at times of a young outlaw, where he's got an opportunity, where his mind is sharp. It is sharp, and he plays the game. And when he plays, when we saw it, that quick run he went on, that's an all-time run. It's a top. I mean, we'll, in the next 5 or 6 years, we were to say top 10 runs of all time, but there's probably only been 10 runs of all time. So, 10 really good ones. But, I mean, that's an all-timer. He truly came in and dominated. Bogz, I mean, is Paul somebody that you see as a future? I mean, he's already been a star, right? So, I mean, when you've been a champion, it's easy. It's easy to know what it's like to be there. But like we've mentioned before, it's harder to stay there. You think he's got what it takes to come back and stay there at the top?
Well, he's shown his caliber so far. So obviously going 5-0 and beating Morrill. So yeah, he's shown his his ability. He's shown he's also beat Brendan Meyer. He's also beat Schneider as well. So he's got top wins. But can he keep it up? Was it just a good run? I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing him back. Now with Lon as well, I think he can relax a bit now that he's got this kind of, they've both got new personalities. Now they can just play more instead of having to incorporate the character so much and worrying about that. And now maybe Winston can take some of that heat and some of that pressure off them. And like John was saying, that it just kind of shows how how much depth Swag have got now. Obviously they've got these two plus Chandru plus Ace plus Lishan and Miller. I mean, they're stacked. There's a lot of diversity there as well in different divisions and different abilities. So yeah, it's a pleasure to watch these guys.
Absolutely. And I know, obviously, again, speaking on Swag, Adam Slavic obviously wound up getting out round 1 of the Inner Geekdom tournament, but when he just teamed up with Liz Shannon Miller, another new team that we saw coming out from Swag, specifically from Winston, that had a good showing. And that was an all-new appearance for both Adam and Liz in the team's division. I can hear myself saying things, and I sound very smart and good. So I love that. No, it's great. I love knowing what I sound like.
You sound great.
But yeah, it's an exciting team, an exciting faction, but we definitely can't overlook Deep 13, can we, Colin?
No, because the respect of knowledge has to be there. And that's one thing that I think is really unique about singles, is that there's that wheel is so damn diverse. Like, and you nail what you nail. If you get your stuff in singles, we're talking, these are the times where Draco and Bibiani are dropping like, in the 30s, and they're, late, early, top 20s, early 30s of points. And you're just sitting there like, wow, these dudes can do that tonight. That's what I'm saying. Like, the knowledge that we have presented to us tonight on both sides is going to be like very few missed questions. And from Deep 13, it's hard to find a place where you can nail down weaknesses, because we got to see them as a team. This is, this is the bet. My favorite part about the new season for teams and with all these factions is the team ups. It's cool to see the old heads, the founding fathers, and all the teams that, get to stay together. But these new teams that get to come together off the minds of the managers, that's the stuff that's fun, that I'm really excited and really looking forward to. And Bogz, like, do you see an edge for them? Because I'm still looking for it. I can't quite find it yet.
Yeah, not a specific edge, but just overall, the overall gameplay. I quite like their teams as they were kind of originally. Obviously, Whitney with Bibiani and Alonso with Achty, right? Yeah, so I quite like them separately. Obviously, they weren't the elite. They weren't, they weren't having title shots. Obviously, I know kind of Bibiani and Cyborg did, but I saw the strengths there. So coming together, hopefully can help each other, because like I said, I don't want to bring it up again, but they have made mistakes in the past as individuals. So hopefully, they can. I'm just thinking today, no mistakes, because Ayama and Lon Harris are too sharp. So I'd say kind of they have more pressure on them. So maybe kind of Alonso and Whitney can just play and just kind of prove the fans wrong. And see where it goes from there. Take them to the 5-pointer. We've seen in the last few tournaments, stay in the game, stay up until the 5-pointer. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I am backing Lon and Ayama, but the other guys are solid players, and they'd beat a lot of other teams. So, like for example, I actually think they're better than the Pride. So, or they would beat the Pride personally. So, super interested what's going to go down.
I think it's safe to say, Alonso is a veteran of this league. He's been around for a long time. I mean, Christian brought him and Matt in. I mean, the way Christian brought him in, you can kind of tell the way Christian angles a team, a new team, when he brings people in that he knows. Like, these guys can contend for titles. And this is in the time of the Patriots. This is in the time the Schmoes still competing. And these guys, that's the knowledge that we talk about. We talk about knowing the stuff, and these guys just know it. And it's interesting to see now that these players who have been around since the beginning, how do they see these guys coming in and studying like the dungeon and taking it as seriously as the dungeon? And it scares me to a point to think that these players who were already so great at the game, who already had this base knowledge where, they were just coming over to Collider once every month and recording something. Now this is full-fledged, and if they're taking it as seriously as the people who came up just because they were fans, of the game, it's scary stuff, John, because we got a lot of veterans out there that are getting primed for the singles tournament that could make some noise, who haven't in a while.
Absolutely. I mean, not to get too dorky on the stream right now, but I'm wearing the Pokemon hat, so I'm going to go ahead and make a Pokemon comparison. When I look at the teams of Final Exam and Deep 13, I look at Deep 13 as like the gym leader types, whereas I look at Final Exam and I kind of see more the game protagonist types. Where Deep 13, they're kind of the old guard in a way, and they're also very, very good at a specific typing, right? Obviously, when the two of them got Festival Darlings, they were able to run that category easily. Versus a squad like Final Exam, where you have a little bit more type coverage. You know what I mean? You have Paul, who's that younger guy, like you were saying, Colin, someone who has come up from the fan leagues, who's got that passion and drive for the game and earned his way up, Not that, of course, Whitney and Alonso didn't earn their way through their knowledge, but Paul earned his way up through his gameplay specifically. And now he's partnered with Lon Harris, someone who is kind of able to reinvent himself, someone who has proven to be an asset when teamed up with multiple different people. Those two are really versatile types. It's, our Twitter poll, I'll toss that in there. Our Twitter poll has Final Exam beating Deep 13 with 86% of the vote. That's kind of the way I'm leaning as well. I do think that type coverage is going to be the thing that beats out Deep 13. It is worth noting, though, that Deep 13, they pulled off an upset win before when everyone thought that they were going to lose their first match. Also, Paul Oyama has been part of a team that got upset won over. Is that the right phrasing? But when Paul was part of the Loose Cannons team with Eric Zipper, that team lost to Tim Franco and Stacey Howard, the queen of bracket upsets. So it's something that's worth keeping in mind. I definitely would not say that it's set in stone that Final Exam is going to win this. Like, they're going to have to make sure they play correctly in order to beat a team that's got as deep knowledge as Deep 13. But I do like Final Exam's odds, Colin.
And it's going to be interesting, too. I mean, this is the first teams match that we've had during all this. So it's going to be real interesting to see what in the world goes on. I imagine it's going to have some resemblance to what we've seen in the speed round over the last couple of finals in these tournaments. Whereas we're looking at dropping players out of the call and bringing them back in just to make sure nobody hears the questions. It's going to be interesting. I've been trying to rack my brain over how they're going to do it, without putting people in the same room per se. Obviously, can't do that right now. But Bogz, have you had any thoughts on how this is going to work? Or, you just going to let this, just going to let it see what happens?
Yeah, I think the first one, we have to let it play out and see what they're trying to do. Maybe they put two people and they just play kind of the game together and then put the two after in terms of the round each. I don't know. I've got no idea. But yeah, I mean, let's see, because we definitely need to take that into consideration when kind of analyzing other matches and other predictions and stuff. How certain people act in certain environments, in certain situations. It's all, for me, I love that kind of stuff, like the kind of psychology of it all. So yeah, I don't know. I've got no idea how it's going to work. Hopefully there's no controversy with it. And
that'll never happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully there's no tech issues, dropping people in, dropping people out, that kind of thing. So I think that just kind of adds to all the tension of it. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting. But hopefully, like I said, just go to the third round. I just want to see, I want to see the drama. So let's try and get into the fifth round. I should imagine it being, because we've got four solid players that can do just as good in singles. So let's see. Got no idea how it's going to go, but I'm in for the ride.
Yeah, we've seen, and this is no fault to anyone. There were a couple of matches there towards the end of the Inner Geekdom tournament that the matchups just were, a little loppy. They were a little one-sided, and that's just sometimes is how the game works out. Sometimes that second round just doesn't favor you. And I just don't feel like we're in for that tonight. I just don't feel like there's any room for, there's very few holes of these guys' knowledges that I think they can find. But John, I'm really looking forward to the new lawn. I'm not gonna lie. The professor for a long time really kind of got on my nerves every time he tried to come on and tell me something that I didn't know. I know it's the character, and I love the character, so that's the sign of a good character when they rattle you like that and they can actually agitate you. But what do you think this is? How do you think this is going to affect his gameplay at all? You think this is raised his gameplay up a level? I know you mentioned that he's got less time to worry about the theatrics. You can give that over to Winston. You think that's going to rise up the level of gameplay from him?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly in for fewer Karina references, first and foremost. That's probably the biggest difference in gameplay, is we're going to hear a lot less of that. I do think, though, there is that element of when you look at these characters like the Professor, who pride themselves very much on not just their knowledge, but their knowledge relative to others, where it's that kind of superiority pride complex, you know what I mean? Whereas that's not so much a thing anymore with the delinquent. Now he can just know the things that he knows, whereas the professor was much more like, no, you see, here's I studied at Oxford, so of course I know not enough 90s movies to win that 90s movies round, but I know all of the true cinema that came out of that age. Ever heard of Clueless? Things of that nature. We're going to see a lot less of that. We're going to see a guy who just knows what he knows, and he's going to probably act like anything he doesn't know is just stupid. But to be fair, the delinquent seems to think a lot of things are stupid. So I'm not going to hold it that much against him. Certainly, we saw that he cares about the game, partially just because Winston plies him with alcohol and snack foods. But hey, whatever it takes to get you motivated. So I'm excited to see Lon, the new character. And like I said as well, I'm excited to see sort of similarly a less serious Paul. Another guy who's not coming in as cocky. Obviously, it's been talked about how a lot of people didn't really vibe with Paul Oyama when he first stepped into the game because of that arrogance, whereas now a lot of people respect him a little bit more, It's that question of, oh, does this kid respect the game enough? Now there aren't really any questions about that because it's just two guys having fun, and it's all about the knowledge now. And I think that's good, especially going up against guys like Whitney and Alonso, who have always kind of had that vibe. You know what I mean? Like, even as kind of older gentlemen, I would say, well, not that much older, but still gentlemen. You know what I mean? Where it's like they're just lovely guys and they've never had like huge chips on their shoulders. Aside from Whitney, when he did partner up to be the Self-Righteous Brothers, he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder then. But I mean, considering now what's going on with the experiment, you can argue that might be a lot of Mark Edward Hoyk's influence on Whitney. So I'm excited, man. It's just four guys that know a lot of stuff and are going to have fun answering some questions, Colin. It's going to be a good undercard. And it's only an undercard. How about that? We spent this much time talking about a match that's even just the appetizer. You love to see it, Colin.
We get two matches in one special. I'm so excited. Sometimes it's been these last couple of weeks have been packed. I know the first week we did the show, we had 5 matches. I mean, that was a rush. And it's just going to keep on coming. I mean, it was a great prep for the tournament coming up. Before we get to the main event, let's talk about the tournament a little bit. The tournament coming up, this singles tournament, I know some results from tonight will affect some seeding in the tournament, some placements in the tournament. But Bogz, is there a dark horse? I'm talking a non-champion, no one who's ever held a belt before. Is there somebody that you're really looking at that could win this tournament coming up?
I don't know about win, but get past a few rounds. I know Jen Kemp I think she has to, she's kind of relying on someone like the Erwin situation and stuff. But if she can get in, I mean, she's shown that she can kind of hold her own in the geekdom. And if she has that fan experience going in, I think maybe she could get a few wins there. I did quite like her being her addition. I did kind of had my eye on her. Who else? Liz Shannon Miller. I got my eyes on her. She had a good run. Not the hardest run like we've ever seen to get a kind of number 1 contender shot, but she did show ability. So I'm kind of wanting to see how much or how far she can go with that. But she's in the same bracket as our boy Chance, so I don't know. He's on form at the minute. So honestly, I'm super looking forward to Chance as well, because he is obviously he's won this Inner Geekdom tournament, but he's come in as a single. Say again.
He won it.
Yeah, exactly.
He won it.
Damn right. Yeah, so he's coming in as a singles player. He is a better singles player than Inner Geekdom player. So really, and obviously he wants to prove a point in singles as well. Obviously he's had tough kind of first round draws in the past, so now he's better seeded. So hopefully he can get some wins in there and prove some points and maybe get another final. Who knows?
Bogz, you just broke my brain, dude. You said Chance Ellison is a better singles player than he is an Inner Geekdom player, and he just beat 2 of the top. Robert Parker, ever heard of him? Yeah. Mike Kalinowski, ever heard of him? Just took out some of the greatest Inner Geekdom talent that we have in the league, and you're saying that you think he's better in singles. Watch out, man! Like that's for real. One name that has really stuck out to me it's gotta be Miss Ramirez of the Finstock Exchange. If she can get in, that is a wealth of knowledge that could be absorbed, that she has had the time over all this to pick the brains of the exchange and learn from the Mount Rushmore, the current standing Mount Rushmore of talent that currently stands in the Schmoedown. And most of it is in the exchange. Could you imagine? I mean, she comes in, makes some noise against Vinny. I mean, man, that, just make some noise in that first game. I mean, that would be huge. But I hear you with Jen Kemp as well. Like, it's all there. The talent that we got coming in here with these rookies is unreal. And it's going to be shown here. Like, this, we've all had the same amount of time to study. What did you do with your time? We're about to find out.
Before John goes, another person, big, in my eyes, big pressure on, who has to perform if they, it's a bit harsh to say, but if they want to kind of be rated as a top singles player still, I'll always have his respect, being former 2-time champion, but Mark Riley, massive tournament for him. He's not had a big win in singles. Obviously, he won earlier on against Janine, but he's not gone on a run, not beat a top player in quite a while. So he needs a massive kind of run or some wins under his belt to have his name in the upper echelon of the kind of division. Obviously, teams is still there. He's won the tournament not long ago, but in singles, we need a big performance from him. So definitely got my eye out on him. So yeah, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, yeah, I mean that's a fair point. Mark Riley is a delightful man. He's a decorated vet in the Schmoedown. Definitely got to put some respect on his name. However, he does have an experience with some curses, let's say, when it comes to tournaments. And if there's any player in the Schmoedown that I believe has the power to cast curses, or at the very least strengthen pre-existing curses, it is Video Drew. So he's for sure going to have some trouble down the road. I was going to say, of the two players that I had that were going to be potential dark horses, one of mine was definitely Sabrina Ramirez. Partially because, yes, she is a part of the Finstock Exchange, but also because there was a lot of heat on her before she even got drafted. And I think that's huge. Like, it's not just a question of the fact that she's now with a top-tier faction. It's also everything that is her before even coming into it. You know what I mean? Like, she definitely knows her stuff. She's got her own Patreon channel where she talks about movies. She's, of course, part of the Meaning Of podcast alongside Ace and RB3. So I definitely think she knows her stuff. And if she gets, and also Rocha was talking about the idea where he's excited about her potentially being in the tournament. And he's talked about the possibility of, like, even if he doesn't wind up with the belt, about maybe still letting her play because he's just so excited to see what she's about. So that makes me very excited to see Sabrina play. My biggest pick for potential dark horse winner, though, has got to be Tim Franco. That guy's got a gnarly accuracy rate. He's only got one match in singles, and it is a win. But we definitely saw him do some damage in teams not that long ago when he was part of Crimson Fury. And like I said, that was he was part of that team that got an upset win over the Loose Cannons, which had Paul Oyama, who was on his run at that point as a singles player. So he's personally my pick for if there's going to be an underdog dark horse story, I think it's going to be him, Colin.
Yeah, guys. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at this. I mean, we just have talent on talent on talent on talent, from top to bottom in here. And I'm just super excited to see players like Bibiani, Mark Andraco, like Jeff Snyder, these old heads go up against the newbies. And it's just going to be excited to see what these old heads can do with this new style of play, because it's different. It's just different. Yeah, I mean, this is not 2016 Schmoedown. This is 2020. Like the sign says, it's a new era. Season 7 is a new era, and people are caring at a different level. And I just got to give it out. You just got to give it up for the Chance. Players like Chance, where it's you can just feel how much he cares. You're watching that yesterday, watching him win, and then watching him sit there and not gloat. Of course, the circumstances give it he's not going to gloat because it was against his guy. Of course, it'd be different if he ended up going up against somebody else. I'm sure the corruption side of things probably would have come out to play a little harder. But to see that this dude really, really cares. He came on this show. He showed his maturity, and he and it took him the whole way. Mind you that he scared the daylights out of me when he switched his hand sign midway through to this. And I was like, what are we doing here, Doctor Strange? And eventually went back to this during the last round and I was like, okay, all right. But it got to that point where, you could tell dude cared that much that he was doing the same thing. And it also kind of rattled me that he didn't wear his regular outfit. He still had the glasses and the hat on, but he had a different shirt on for the first time. Of course, playing into the whole, what was that they had going there? The little shuffleboard swag, playing a little shuffleboard on the top deck and of the cruise ship, as they were saying. But players like that, I mean, it's gonna be great to see. Like Chance, I see him as a veteran, even though he's so young. It's kind of hard to, he's just he's experienced at his age. So guys like that. But John, let's shift back to the pay-per-view, because that's tonight. We're actually 23 minutes away from the pay-per-view dropping. For those $10 patrons, pay $5 to Schmoedown Live. This isn't, you know where to get it. John, take me through this main event of John Rocha versus Ethan Erwin, please.
That's right. Two of the biggest names in the Schmoedown. And it's a little weird to say this about Rocha because he is such a storied player. He's been, like Mark Riley, a decorated vet. But I do think he's kind of not getting a lot of credit. And obviously, we're going to sound a little bit biased here. Obviously, we are an Outlaw Nation show. But in my mind, I look at Rocha and I kind of feel like he's similar to the Silver Entertainment Pictures film Sherlock Holmes. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but I would argue an underrated, good, fun time when you put it on. That's right. I enjoy Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, and I enjoy the heck out of John Rocha. And right now, Rocha is hungry. We've seen it in the promos, not just talking about Sherlock, but also how he's talked about how every time he's gone up against Ethan Erwin up until this point, he doesn't feel like he's been really at his peak game. He doesn't feel like he's always been ready. And he's feeling like he's ready this time around. And we've seen what happens when John Rocha is hungry and is ready. He goes to work. And I really believe that that's the kind of John Rocha we're going to see in this match. And of course, I do want to make sure I give Ethan Erwin his credit. He's also a fantastic player. He went on his huge run when he first entered the league. Also, if you look at their overall accuracy rates, as far as both in the singles and ever, right now Ethan does have a higher accuracy rate than Rocha, both in singles and in total. But at the same time, I feel like ever since I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I verbalize everything correctly. Ever since Ethan Erwin's initial run stopped, I feel like he's looked a little bit shakier. He's still been a great player, but he hasn't necessarily been able to get as many wins stacked on top of each other as he was when he first came in. And I think that's partially because, as we've talked about, he's one of those players that is still old guard, reliant on that inner knowledge that he's just has over the years. And certainly it's worked wonders for him. That's why he's one of the greats. But then you look at someone like John Rocha, who I feel like really has adapted to the new class of competitors that we've seen and has really upped his study game. So now you have someone like Ethan Erwin, who's got that general base of knowledge, and then Rocha, someone who also has that general base of knowledge and then has just been adding on top of it with his study technique that we've seen work, that we've seen. His last singles match was against Paul Oyama, which he got a win over in a great match. Like, I still think Rocha versus Oyama is one of my favorite matches in the Schmoedown. I feel like Rocha is just one of those guys that has been staying relevant and has stayed a main event competitor for a reason. And that's why I think he's going to win it. And again, I know Outlaw Nation show, but also how can you not be a member of the Outlaw Nation when you got a guy as good as John Rocha leading the movement? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think the best part about this is that we're going to back it up. And I mean, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to pick John, and I'm going to tell you why. It's not because I host a show on his network. It's because I believe that the dude is involved. The guy hosts an unlimited amount of shows where he's being talked, he's talking to, he's soaking up information constantly all the time. I'm not calling him out, but just saw Ethan Erwin this week on a couple shows. It's like he's not a main stand in this sphere, this whole interaction. Might have more experience with the Zoom calls with family members than on online shows, and I know that's not the case with Rocha. So I think being there's got to be something to say about being comfortable in your element. I know John is very comfortable in his office. If that's where he's going to be. Comfortable in his space. Ethan, last time we saw him on backstage, was sitting in front of a grill. So I wonder what I'm curious to see what the backdrop is going to be for the game tonight. But with John, it's the studying. It's constantly hearing over and over again from unnamed sources within the White House that John Rocha's studying habits are out of this world right now. And it is just some stuff that we've seen the greats pull off. And that is not a John Rocha that I would want to play, Bogz. It's not somebody I would want to step up on. But I've had a feeling, and it's similar to yours, John, and I'll throw this to Bogz. Ethan's felt different since that live event. Since that live event, there seems to be a shift. A shift in Ethan where I don't know what it was. There was some confidence during that initial, it was that tournament run, that initial run where you're just like, this guy's not missing, right? Everything, bam, bam, bam. It was like, you almost felt like the questions he was being asked for a long time were insulting his intelligence because it was a different side, because the whole idea was that he was producer Ethan Erwin, the master producer who, knew these things because he was involved with making them or, offered to make the moves in some sense. Bogz, it's been since that live event, man. And I just feel like he's been a different player that he pairs up with Janine. What's it going to take for him to beat the Outlaw tonight? Let's take it from that perspective. What's it going to take for him to get over this Outlaw Nation?
I completely agree, by the way. Like, since that live event, I think leading up to that, Ethan had like an aura of invincibility about him. How solid across all kind of rounds and all fields, how he was playing. But since then, since being humbled against Morrill, I haven't seen that same kind of aura about him, which happens, it is part of the game. Obviously, wins and losses is part of your kind of your journey, the ebbs and flows and all that. But for example, that Schneider match, Schneider lost that match, really. He's the one that kind of, he missed them rather than kind of Ethan playing amazing or anything like that, blowing him out. Side note, by the way, Schneider is one of my favorite players of all time. But I just have to say that he's definitely looking out for him for the tournament. All-round entertainment, 2-time champion. So it just even like
that shows the difference right there. John's reaction and my reaction. Somebody who's been watching the Schmoedown since 2014.
No, I love him. I love him, honestly.
Like, I'm all in, as much as I hate the Patriots.
Absolute showman.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
So
I don't like even like his match against Who's the Boss, when they're trying to nail their 5-pointer. And what was he doing? He took his top off and he's like rubbing his nipples and like what are you doing? Like, there's a 5-pointer to win the match. And then
that's what we like.
Off the Bears jersey that he just bought. Like, you could tell he just bought that Bears jersey because it was too tight.
It was so tight.
Take it back.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. Yeah. Like, John, when you're tuning in at 2 a.m. to watch this and you're seeing this kind of entertainment, it was like, oh my god, like, he's so unpredictable. He's like crazy. Yeah, it's I don't know. I just find it really fun, man. Like, him, Rocha, Kalinowski are my favorite players of all time. They're in that entertainment bracket of like pure showman. Anyway, sorry, going back to. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, throw it into there, man, and we'll see him tonight. Sam Levine. Levine is one of my favorite players of all time. And does that have to stand from him being one of the Inglorious Bastards? Maybe, because he's truly one of my favorite movies ever. And Freaks and Geeks, always comes back to me when I talk about Sam, because that was the first time I saw, I was like, oh, they got a famous person up in here now.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that guy's been on. That was just weird, right? It was like, oh, that guy's famous. He's been on stuff. But now managing, he's kind of, all right. My managing hasn't been his strong suit as opposed to playing. He's not as strong a manager as he is a player. I'm thinking that's going to start to turn around because now he's got some stuff to fight for. before we start, he was feeling out the ropes when it came to Star Wars and Intergeekdom.
Yeah. Now it's his wheelhouse, right?
Now we're in singles. Now we're in teams. Excuse me. He's not, he's not having to maybe look over at Rachel and be like, should I challenge that?
Yeah.
Now it's like, I'm here, like I'm good. And I'm excited to see that energy being brought to, to him managing, because I think I think he's gonna feel a lot more comfortable in this situation. And I think he's going to, I've always been team return of the Sam Levine. So if he could one day step into play again, I would just make me just the happiest kid in the world. But John, I mean, we got 13 minutes to showtime. We got, we've been talking Schmoedown, it feels like, all day. What is it about tonight? If you one thing you want to see tonight, what is it?
I think, honestly, the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is just the return of that live event energy that I've been missing for a minute. Obviously, we've been in a rough spot as a world for a little bit now, particularly here in America. It's been pretty bad. And one of the things that has definitely had to go through a lot of ebbs and flows of figuring out how to continue making stuff is the Schmoedown. And we're at a point now where we're returning to the bread and butter, the original format of the Schmoedown, which is the singles tournament. I'm excited to see, again, sort of that classic Schmoedown energy. And I'm really hoping that as much of that normal in-studio energy will still exist and come to life here in this event. Not that it hasn't, of course, in the Star Wars and Intergeekdom tournaments. That's been fun as all get out. But it is exciting that we're coming back to these big event sort of matches where there's usually so much energy that usually brings about some of my personal favorite matches, and I'm sure it's true for both of you as well. That's the thing that I'm looking forward to most of all, is just the personalities, that energy. That's the thing I've been needing a fix for quite some time. And I'm hoping that's what we get, because I don't have to worry about the knowledge. We know that the knowledge is there. It's just going to be about the energy of the game, Colin.
I miss the drama. I miss singles. I miss teams. That original teams tournament to me is one of the most like special events ever. Like the whole everyone at the old studio and all that stuff. That's the vibe I'm hoping to get from tonight. I'm hoping to see a return, like a fun, this whole thing. You got people coming from the Schmoedown that have been involved with this since the beginning coming through tonight. And I think that's huge. I think, this game has needed, we've been anxiously awaiting the return of the Titan superstars. And tonight is a return. We've been creating stars all summer. We've been creating stars. Now we've had Mike Kalinowski and Alex Damon, but they weren't, not in, they didn't, neither of them won the tournament, but they weren't they were favorites, but you get what I'm saying. Tonight we return to Rocha, we return to Erwin, we return to the Titans of the game, and that's what I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see dudes who just make this game what it is. That's what we're back. It feels like we're kind of back. It's like it's a huge weekend. Like the NBA's back, baseball's sort of back. Who knows? It might be gone again. Hockey's back. People like hockey, soccer. It's coming. Football, Champions League. It's coming. And Schmoedown pay-per-views. That's what we're here for. And Bogz, wrap up. If we got 5 minutes left, probably. Before we'll wrap up here. If you got one thing to say to Mr. John Rocha or Mr. Ethan Erwin or anyone, what do you say? Pump them up, man. Give them that big old pregame speech.
I'll try. So, what I'm looking forward to most is probably the next phase or the next era of the Outlaw. So we're going from obviously the first title win against Morrow, then the whole top 10 team situation, the whole rivalries with the Action guys, with Team Trek, with Above the Line, then winning the title from that tournament, beating Guy, Bateman, Kalinowski, Andrejko, Bibiani, going on that run, then winning the team title again with the founding fathers. This guy is still being written off. It's beyond me. So that's why like I said, I always prefer someone who has multiple titles, multiple in different divisions, who's been unified champion, that kind of thing. I always prefer that as a caliber of a player. So as opposed to, someone who went on a kind of good 4-5-0 kind of run and then win and lose their title. I'm always going to back the high caliber, personally, just due to experience. And yeah, this is just the next phase of the Outlaw. Not everyone's writing him off as a bit harsh, but him being kind of labeled as the underdog, or people being super supportive of Erwin, which is fine. Obviously, you've got your own opinion, but give respect where it's due. Give respect for the man who wants it more, and that's John the Outlaw Rocha for me. So that's why I'm backing him. Win, lose or draw, I'm still backing him anyway, to be honest with you. But yeah, really want him to win, because obviously going into that moral match, going into the teams match is more kind of tension, more excitement going into that, with that rivalry with corruption. So personally, I want that.
Yeah, I feel that, because then, if Erwin pulls it off tonight, you're almost then, if you're rooting for storyline, you're rooting for Erwin to upset Merle, right? You got to run it back,
let's say he does win, Colin, right? Like I know it's a bit harsh, but like usual suspects are bottom of the league. Like it's not like that doesn't really have, do you know what I mean? Like a whole story. In terms, it doesn't have the emotional kind of thing attached to it with the Finstock guys and corruption. Obviously, that leaves a chance for corruption to overtake them.
Right.
But I'm just saying, just generally for me, storylines kind of for drama, I would personally want that.
I think it's safe to say that Chance, Shannon, and Mike all have their usual suspect shirts on tonight. John, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not forget, you want to talk about storylines and rising up from the bottom. That was kind of corruption's whole game in that Intergeekdom tournament, where they kind of had to climb their way up. So there definitely be a story, and I definitely think it's a story that Sam could really do to star in right now. You know what I mean? If there's any actor who could really use a starring vehicle about rising their way up, it's Sam the Ma'am Levine. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting match, a lot of fun personalities, and it's only 7 minutes away. Colin, tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here.
Okay, so this is the time. I think we should make the final prediction.
Okay, that's the show. Very good.
This is the show. It's over right now. John, since we're on you, give me your picks, both games. You can give me score. You don't have to. I won't hold you to it. I'm not going to write it down right now to bring it up when we talk again to review the match.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think Final Exam is going to win their team's match. I think it's probably only going to be, it'll probably come down to like 4 points or so, but I'm imagining that's just because of maybe missing one of those final round questions and that kind of being the thing that decides it. And obviously those are just bigger points. So that's how I imagine that one going. Ultimately for Final Exam. And then Rocha versus Erwin, I feel like it's going to be one of those matches that we've been seeing a lot of over the course of these past 2 tournaments, where it's just going to be that one question, might be around one question, where it's going to ultimately be only a game of like 1 or 2 points, and it's just about who gets that first edge. And I do think it's going to be Rocha who gets the first edge.
Bogz, I don't think I have to ask. I think I know where this is going, but
yeah, you do. I'll give a slight kind of. I'm not very good at picking points or that kind of thing, or method of a win. I don't know, but I'll have a guess. So I'm going to say with the teams match, I think that'll just go down to the wire. I think whoever doesn't know their 5 point now. That's just my random guess. But in terms of Rocha against Erwin, I think there's a bit more information there where whenever Erwin's lost, we've seen that he has particular large gaps in knowledge in certain things, maybe like animation or Pixar, that kind of thing. So if something like that lands, we could potentially see a quite wide points gap. So knockout's a bit harsh, but I can't see him getting knocked out. But I'm thinking, you might not get to the 5 pointer if he potentially spins at animation or Pixar. So that's a long shot, but I'm just saying it is a potential of happening. So yeah, that's my prediction. Rocha win. I don't care how, just Rocha win.
Well, humble brag, I did only miss my chance pick by 1 point. We have the receipts. I said chance by 2, chance won by 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of really made me mad. I was like, you couldn't have passed on one of them, bro. It was 1. You could have passed on one more of them, and I would have been a genius. But let's see. I think final exam is they're gonna make a statement tonight. I think that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a team to make these. We talked about the stakes stacking up on top of each other. I think that's what we're gonna see tonight. We're gonna see final exam make a statement saying that we are here, we are contenders, and it's not just about the founding fathers and corruption. It's about we got something to say too. Come Spectacular 5. And when it comes to the last match, John Rocha, kick his ass, please.
How polite.
Well, I just had to say please. So I think, guys, we went live for the first time as a show. I think that went so much fun. I have fun talking to you guys all the time. Now everybody can experience this as it happens. I love it. Should probably do this more often before these matches, because this is going to keep happening, guys. Because next week we got one, and then after that we got the big one. We got Y2J versus Kevin Smith, and that is going to be amazing. I just can't wait for Chris Jericho. Like, that is just that's a whole other show, folks. And that's this show. Get over to your couches, get ready, because that link is gonna be coming through for you $10 Patreon and for the $4.99 ticket holders. It's coming any second now. So for the Ultimate Schmoedown, folks, please make sure to follow us. If you're watching right now, subscribe right now. Like this video right now. You're watching. You've been watching. 7 of you have been watching. 4 of you are still watching. Like it. Right. It's right over here. It's right here. It's right here. Click it. Click it. Right there. And then there's a subscribe button. I'm going to pass my hand this way and then over to Bogz. If we can pass it all the way over to Bogz. Now, Bogz going down.
Oh, down. Here?
Boom. Subscribe right there.
Easy.
Bang. So hit that subscribe button. Easy. It's as easy as that. Bam. Where do you find us? Right here. Our handles. We put them right there for you. Bogz, John Barr tweets, @the_C Morris. You will find us again tomorrow reviewing all of this stuff and the IG tournament, a full hour-long breakdown of the IG tournament final. And we'll be back tomorrow. So thanks for joining us. This has been the Ultimate Schmoedown Show, live pre-game for the pay-per-view. Get on
John,
up to your couch.
Come on, John. Let's have it.
Go, Rocha. Let's go, Rocha Fett. Let's go. Let's go.
And go on.
Yes, go on indeed. And Paul as well. Let's see if he wears glasses. That'll do it, folks. We're out. Peace.